The Dharma topic. From suffering to liberation. The three provisions or essentials to have as stated in the Sukhavativyuha Sutra when opting to practice Amitabha Buddha name recitation in order to secure rebirth in the Western Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha are faith, aspiration, and practice. These three provisions can be likened to the necessary provisions such as food, drinks etc., that are to be prepared when going on a journey to a distant land. The Amitabha Sutra was translated by the great master Kumarajiva. In the Tripitaka of Chinese Buddhism, there is another version translated by Master Xianzong, entitled Sutra in Praise of the Pure Land. The phrase, wholeheartedly without being scattered, as mentioned in Amitabha Sutra, was translated by Master Xianzong as fixing the mind without being scattered. Another is the phrase, their minds will not be inverted, which Master Xianzong translated as, their minds will not be scattered. Another paragraph mentioned firmly upholds mindfulness of his name, if for 1 day, or for 2 days, or for 7 days, wholeheartedly without being scattered. The phrase, wholeheartedly without being scattered, refers to the state of samadhi. Therefore, recitation of the Buddha's name calms the scattered mind. Once we develop deeper understanding, we will comprehend the state of concentration. If we develop our concentration further, then wisdom arises. Wisdom cannot arise from a scattered mind. This refers to Trisiksha, threefold training, sila, morality, samadhi, concentration, and prajna, wisdom. What is the meaning of samadhi? Samadhi means concentration or an undistracted mind. This is not easy to achieve. Often, our minds are very distracted. As one thought subsides, another arises. Therefore, one must be patiently, and try to concentrate either by being mindful of the breath or Amitabha recitation, engaging ourselves into concentration, deep concentration. Then, we could experience prajna, and prajna arises from concentration. This the practice of samatha and vipassana, where samatha the practice of calming the mind while vipassana is related to seeing the true nature of reality. If we were to investigate and discuss Pure Land practice, we should start from the Pure Land Sutra. We ought to deepen our study and understand correctly the content of Amitabha Sutra, the shorter Sukhavativyuha Sutra. Another important sutra for those who practice Amitabha recitation is the Infinite Life Sutra, the longer Sukhavativyuha Sutra. The important points of the 3 levels of rebirth in Pure Land that are conditioned and accompanied by bodhicitta. This point is discussed in detail in the last section of the Infinite Life Sutra. You may pay particular attention to this. Another Pure Land Sutra entitled the Visualization Sutra, or the Sutra of the Visualization of the Buddha of Infinite Life, the Amitayuddhana Sutra, which expounds the essence of the 16 visualizations. These 16 visualizations are not easy to practice and not everyone can do it. Nevertheless, the Visualization Sutra is important. It commences with the 3 meritorious deeds, followed by the 16 visualizations, and 9 grades of rebirths. This could help us to fully understand the practice of Amitabha recitation. The many methods of cultivation in Buddhism. It is important to choose the philosophy that is right for us when practicing or studying Buddhism. Currently, ICT made it really easy to access information on any topic possible, thus we can be familiar with the various Buddhist cultivation or practice methods. Malaysia is unique that in the eyes of Buddhists, as we can find various sects of all the 3 existing traditions. Malaysia used to be the meeting place of the various Buddhist traditions. Monastics from both the northern, Mahayana, and southern, Theravada, traditions converged here. Many monks migrated from countries in the South to Southeast Asia, from Sri Lanka and Burma to Thailand, Cambodia, and the Malay Peninsula, since the time Ashoka began to spread Buddhism. We can see the society in Malaysia and Indonesia being greatly influenced by Indian culture due to this. Sanskrit can be said to be the dominant cultural language from the 10th century to modern times. In fact, we can see that Thai and Cambodian language are influenced by Sanskrit. We can find many Sanskrit words in Bahasa Malaysia and Bahasa Indonesia. Buddhist beliefs in this region were later influenced by Mahayana Buddhism in the last 200 years as a result of its geographical proximity. The Theravada tradition has a direct influence in the northern part of Malaysia, which is adjacent to Thailand. It was only when the Chinese migrated to Southeast Asia that Chinese Buddhism emerged. At the moment, Chinese Buddhism, consisting primarily of Chinese classics, is most influential in this region. Tibetan Buddhism has been gradually introduced to Malaysia over the last 2 decades. There are many Tibetan teachers in this country. However, since every transmission appears to be influenced by local folk customs and cultures, and some are even based on legendary mythology, may have some negative sides. It is interesting to note that not only the Malaysian society is very diverse, as it is multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural and multireligious, but Malaysian Buddhism is just as diverse. However, diversity can occasionally cause problems. For example, some individuals may like to study various Dharma disciplines at one go. When they know that a Theravadin Dharma teacher is in town, they will go and study under him. While on another occasion, they will participate in a 7-day Amitabha Buddha name recitation retreat here or any center elsewhere thereafter. Similarly, should a famous Tibetan Rinpoche arrive from India, then they will all flock to attend his pujas and teachings. They, as they try to learn everything at one go, will eventually end up as jack of all trades but master of none. They who try to learn everything will eventually end up accomplishing nothing. This way of trying to learn everything is extremely detrimental in the practice of Buddhism. Focus on one Dharma practice. To be good Buddhist practitioners, we must choose a Dharma practice that suits our intrinsic nature. Many fail to achieve their goals because they refuse to diligently follow only one practice. If we do not choose a particular Dharma practice to follow, we would not know where to start. In order to wholeheartedly follow a particular practice, one must have a holistic understanding of Buddhism, especially its history and background. It is important to know and understand the evolution of Buddhism, including the reason why there are so many different traditions, sects, and teachings today. This will enhance our desire to continue to explore and practice the Dharma practice we have chosen. It would be great to eventually realize our goal by diligently practicing the Dharma practice we have chosen. In any case, we must keep in mind that if we choose the Amitabha Buddha name recollection as our practice as it is the best for us, it may not be so for others. Should someone we know is not practicing Amitabha Buddha name recollection but is instead practicing a particular Buddhist meditation and is progressing well, then the meditation he is practicing is good for him. Similarly, Tantric is the best to someone who practices it. There is no contradiction, nor doubt regarding this. We should tolerate and respect others who choose the Dharma practice that is most suitable for them. Tolerance means being tolerant in our practice of the Dharma that suits us and others who choose the Dharma that suits them. It is extremely important to keep in mind that all Dharma practices are equal, and that we should respect and tolerate each other. However, it is indeed sad that we continue to encounter religious teachers and devotees of different Dharma practices or different traditions, rejecting and looking down on others just because their practice is different. This is not a good sign, thus, we need to realize and be aware of it. Faith. Faith, aspiration, and practice are the 3 provisions needed should one seek rebirth in the Western Pure Land. In the sutra, faith means to be convinced that there is a Buddha named Amitabha and that the Western Pure Land exists. The teachings of different traditions have their own views and is different to that of others. For example, Theravadins seek liberation from rebirth. They primarily follow the example of the Buddha's disciples and practice the 4 Noble Truths in order to achieve liberation from birth and death. They generally believe that Shakyamuni Buddha could have attained arahantship at the time of the ancient Buddha, but he chose to practice the Bodhisattva path, which took a long time to complete. The Bodhisattva path is not for everyone. Liberation from life and death, as well as the exit from the 3 lower realms, is more significant in Theravada Buddhist countries. However, there are exceptions, especially in Myanmar, where there are cravings on stones depicting the vows of practicing the Bodhisattva path by the ancients there. Imagine how disastrous it would be for an elderly adherent of Chinese Buddhism, who had been diligently practicing Buddha name recollection, be told that there is no Amitabha Buddha or Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Even though he may not fully believe the statement, but his faith would be shaken. Therefore, those who choose to practice Buddha name recollection must have absolute or unshakable faith in the existence of the Buddha whose name they choose to recite. To practice Amitabha Buddha name recitation or recollection, we must not only believe that Amitabha Buddha and his Western Pure Land exists but also in cause and effect. A practitioner of another Dharma practice can be a very good Buddhist, even though he may not believe in the existence of Amitabha Buddha or the other bodhisattvas. We must admire him as he is able to train his mind and break free from the cycle of birth and death. We admire the noble cause he practices that enables him to attain liberation. If we do everything according to worldly laws, then we will be bound to the 6 realms. This was made perfectly clear when we discussed the 4 noble truths. We can be reborn in the Western Pure Land if we were to recollect the name of Amitabha Buddha diligently with absolute faith. This is also faith or belief in cause and effect. Of the 3 provisions, faith includes self-assurance. Someone might be doubtful that he would be able to attain rebirth in the Western Pure Land by recollecting the name of Amitabha Buddha. A Malaysian would reply, "Bol, memang bol," which means of course you can do it for sure. As long as you have the 3 provisions of faith, aspiration, and practice, you will definitely be able to be reborn there. Somebody once asked if I were a tantric practitioner after I had been introducing the sequential stages of practicing Buddhism based on the treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Lamrim Chenmo, for 6 days. Despite being in contact with some excellent Tibetan teachers, I am not a tantric practitioner and I have chosen to practice Amitabha Buddha name recollection. When I was studying in New Zealand, I became very interested in Buddhism. I first learned about Theravada Buddhism, then I met an English teacher who was well versed in the 3 traditions of Buddhism. I gained an initial understanding of the overall structure of Buddhism. When I returned to Malaysia, the first teacher I approached was Venerable Jumo, a well-known and well-respected senior monk in the Malaysian Buddhist community. I attended weekends Amitabha Buddha name recollection pujas at the Buddhist Triple Wisdom Hall with my high school classmate, Brother Leong Koking. Our affinity to Buddhism is different. At that time, he was very active in the Young Buddhist Association of Malaysia. The Most Venerable Jumo was a compassionate monk who cared deeply for the younger generation and gave us a lot of encouragement. He always urged us to recite the name of Amitabha Buddha whenever we visited him. In fact, prior to his departure, Venerable Jumo asked everyone to primarily perform Amitabha Buddha name recollection when he departs. The Most Venerable Jumo was an excellent monk who is well versed in preaching Buddhism. I started studying Buddhism late. I took refuge in the Triple Gem and received the 5 lay precepts at the Buddhist Triple Wisdom Hall, and I ordained under Venerable Master Xiao Jing. Many may not be familiar with Venerable Master Xiao Jing, my ordination teacher. He stayed in Penang Hill and became a master in teaching the 4 Brahma Viharas. When we visited him during his old age, we asked him about the practice of Amitabha Buddha name recollection. He said, Namo Amittuo is a great name carrying immeasurable virtue, and he too advised people to practice Amitabha Buddha name recollection. Venerable Master Bo Yuan, my Chan Dharma lineage teacher, was talented in calligraphy and painting. Many of the couplets in the Nxiong temple are his works of art. He was an enlightened Chan master. He liked to tell a real story that happened at the Gushan Yongquan temple regarding the rebirth of Venerable Master Huilais in the Western Pure Land. We enjoyed being close to him, thus whenever we were in Kuala Lumpur, we would visit him. Every time we visited, he would advise everyone present to recite the name of Amitabha Buddha. Even though Venerable Master Bo Yuan was a Chan master, an enlightened Chan master, yet he would earnestly advise us to recollect the name of Amitabha Buddha. I have been in contact with a few great Tibetan Buddhist masters. They had conducted numerous Dharma teachings using the facilities at the Nxiong temple. I would like to tell you about an interesting meeting that I had with a Tibetan lineage head of a smaller sect, which is known for their power practice. I asked him if the power meditation would be of help to the residents of our senior citizens' homes. I told him that the senior residents are practicing the Amitabha Buddha name recollection daily. He told us to teach the residents to recite the name of Amitabha Buddha wholeheartedly. He said that he also taught his mother to recite Amitabha Buddha, and that the rest is unnecessary. Chinese Buddhism is unique in such a way that some masters are Chan as well as Pure Land masters. Why do these Chan masters also teach the Amitabha Buddha name recollection? You may contemplate on it thoroughly. When we say that the practice of Amitabha Buddha name recollection is universal, we mean that it can be practiced by great bodhisattvas like Manjushri and Samantabhadra as well as an illiterate old lady. Today, in order to strengthen our faith in the practice of Amitabha Buddha name recollection, let us share and motivate each other with actual examples of late great masters who took rebirth in the Western Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha. The 13th patriarch of the Pure Land tradition, Great Master Yin Guang, predicted the date and time of his departure to take rebirth in Amitabha Pure Land. Master Yin Guang wrote a letter in response to some of his followers' questions in the spring of his 80th birthday. He hinted that he would be leaving. "I am now 80 years old, and I am in a precarious position," he stated. He also stated, "I'll be gone. How can we continue to follow this uncertainty of life and death?" Master Yin Guang felt unwell at the end of the 10th lunar month in 1940, so he appointed the monk Miaozhen to be the abbot of the Lingyang Shan temple. Everyone was glad that he had chosen Venerable Miaozhen to succeed him as abbot, and they began to make arrangements for the ceremony. They selected the 9th day of the 11th lunar month, but Master Yin Guang said it will be too late. Everyone wanted to bring forward the ceremony to the 4th of the month, but he shook his head and said it is still too late. Finally, it was suggested that the ceremony be held on the first day of the 11th lunar month, and he nodded his head this time. Aspiration. Aspiration includes aspiring for rebirth in the Western Pure Land and developing bodhicitta. One starts with renouncing this defiled Buddha land of Sakyamuni Buddha to seek rebirth in the Western Pure Land and to return to help sentient beings in this Buddha land later. This is like going to study in a good university in the United States. A university that is well equipped physically, with very good professors and course mates, making it a place conducive for studies. After completing our studies, we will not forget to return to Malaysia to serve the people of our motherland. Thus, vowing to go to the Western Pure Land is just like going abroad to study. Not only is the environment there very conducive for cultivation, but we have Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva and Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva as our companions, so we would surely succeed and will have the conditions to return to this impure Buddha land to save sentient beings. Should we fail to accomplish anything with such conditions and companions, then we could only blame ourselves for not studying seriously. Great Master Uyi, another patriarch of the Pure Land sect, stated that the eligibility to take rebirth in the Western Pure Land depends on one's conviction and sincere aspiration, in his essential explanation of Amitabha Sutra. Practice. There are various ways to recollect the Buddha. One way, as mentioned in the 8 precepts, is the recollection of the virtues of the Buddha. In the Pure Land school, recollection of the Buddha entails recollecting the true nature of the Buddha, recollecting by mindfully concentrating on an image of the Buddha and recollecting the inconceivable virtues of the Buddha and his names. Nowadays, many practice recollection by recitation of the Buddha's name. It is mentioned in the Amitabha Sutra that, if there is a good man or a good woman who hears the name of Amitabha Buddha and firmly upholds mindfulness of his name, be it for 1 day, or for 2 days, or for 7 days, wholeheartedly without being distracted, then when these people approach life's end, Amitabha Buddha, with many of his noble assembly, will appear before them. When their lives come to an end, their minds will not be inverted, and they will be reborn in Amitabha Buddha's pure land of ultimate bliss. Therefore, during these 7 days, we will diligently uphold and recite the name of Amitabha Buddha, and we call this the practice of Amitabha Buddha name recollection. The 9th patriarch of Pure Land tradition, the Great Master Uyi, stated that the eligibility to take rebirth in the Western Pure Land depends on one's conviction and sincere aspiration, in his essential explanation of Amitabha Sutra, whereby the grade of the rebirth will entirely depend on our efforts. In fact, the aim of participating in the 7-day Amitabha recitation retreat is to accomplish the undisturbed one-pointedness mindfulness within the targeted period. However, this is no easy task. Look around us, there are so many Amitabha Buddha name recollection practitioners, but only a few accomplished rebirths in the Western Pure Land. To summarize, if we could gather these 3 provisions, namely faith, aspiration, and practice, and recite the name of Amitabha Buddha diligently, then rebirth in the Western Pure Land of Amitabha would not be a dream.